But up and down Britain, an army of fraud fighters is battling to win it back.
This money should really have been used to pay for the essential services that all of us use every day.
Benefit fraud does not pay.
What it effectively is people stealing money from you and I.
This is a huge amount of money and it's disgraceful.
From paying for the police and our health service, filling in potholes and emptying our dustbins, to making sure everyone has a roof over their head.
£2 million means an awful lot, but it was just the tip of the iceberg.
It's absolutely disgusting what they do.
The investigators' mission has never been more vital.
Blatant lies just to claim benefits.
And the only thing I could put it down to is greed.
This is not a victimless crime. This is coming out of the public purse.
We will not let it go. We're like dogs with bones.
You will be found, you will be investigated, and ultimately you will be prosecuted.
The Fraud Squad are on the case.
Today, the petrol station owners fueling a multi-million-pound tax scam.
They thought they were above the law and would never get caught.
A charity manager shamelessly stealing cash meant for the vulnerable to fund a lavish lifestyle.
When it came into my attention, it just got to the pit of my stomach. I just couldn't believe that somebody could actually do this.
And a takeaway boss who's cooking the books to steal tens of thousands from the public purse.
The evidence in this case is quite overwhelming, and I was determined to get this man.
Taxes are a part of life. They pay for the essential services that we all rely on. And if people don't pay their fair share, well, everyone suffers. But that doesn't seem to stop the selfish fraudsters in our first case, who'd prefer to lie and cheat instead of paying up like the rest of us.
This is the shocking story of two brothers who abused the tax system, stealing millions for their own greedy gains.
Fuel duty and VAT is a large proportion of the cost of the fuel that we buy at the petrol pumps. The sale of illicit fuels will not be tolerated by HMRC. The money that is stolen from these sales should be going to fund vital and essential services provided by the government.
Darren Cooley is an HMRC fraud investigator. He likes nothing more than ensuring fraudsters get their just desserts.
It's important to me to do this job because I like things to be fair. I don't like people getting away with stuff. The world needs to be a level and even playing field.
But not everyone feels the same. And his next case shows how some people will do almost anything to line their own pockets. It all starts at a local filling station, Pulborough Petrol Station in Sussex. An HMRC fuel testing unit is doing a routine inspection.
We carry out various checks on fuels to ensure that the fuel is legitimate diesel or petrol and is duty paid and VAT paid within the UK. The importance of this is several-fold. One is to ensure a level playing field across all the retailers of fuel, and the other one is to ensure the consumers are protected, so to make sure that the people that are going to use those petrol stations are buying fuel that is what it should be and doesn't cause harm to their vehicles or the environment.
Selling illegal, poor-quality fuel to consumers can damage their cars, and dodging fuel duty always damages the public purse. The testing unit randomly picks two cars that have just filled up and takes a sample from their fuel tanks.
So once a sample's taken, the officer will use one of the pre-prepared test tubes which has a testing solution in it already. They'll squeeze a small amount of the diesel into the test tube. When it's about 2/3 full, they'll seal it back up, mix it all together properly, and then leave it for 2 minutes.
The test results are shocking.
They established that kerosene had been mixed with the legitimate diesel to extend the product to make it last longer.
The diesel is definitely dodgy.
Kerosene is normally used as a heating product. As such, the duty rates on it are a lot lower than on road fuel. By traders taking kerosene and mixing it with legitimate road fuel diesel, they reduce the cost to them as they don't pay the full rate of duty on it, and it gives them more product then to sell through their filling station at what is close or near to market value, and therefore they're keeping that extra money.
Both cars are filled with diesel mixed with kerosene. This can't just be a coincidence. Something isn't right.
Finding kerosene in the tanks of these two cars is not a normal find. You wouldn't expect to see that at all at a petrol filling station.
The results point to the petrol station selling illegal fuel, but the investigators need proof.
Many products that you buy, say in the supermarket or elsewhere, you can see the product when you're buying it and you know what you're buying is what you're buying. With fuel, you don't. It's stored in underground tanks at fuel stations. You get it through a petrol pump with a nozzle that you put in the car and it goes straight into the fuel tank. At no point do you actually see the product. So the only way to ensure that it is what it's meant to be is through us testing it and making sure it's the right product.
Next, the team test the fuel tanks underneath the station forecourt. If they also contain kerosene, it's a clear sign this fraud runs much deeper.
After dipping the tanks, they found that kerosene was indeed in the filling station. We realised it wasn't just a couple of private cars that were involved, and it was actually a filling station that was providing illicit fuel to unsuspecting individuals.
The tanks below the station could potentially hold thousands of litres of fake fuel. Someone's been diluting the diesel and dodging tax worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. And the fiddling fraudsters are not only pumping money from the public purse, but also ripping off their own customers.
The customer of this garage was purchasing the diesel there, believing they were buying legitimate diesel, and in fact they weren't. They were buying diesel that had been contaminated with kerosene. They weren't getting what they were paying for. But also by using the fuel, it was potentially damaging their vehicles.
The illicit fuel is seized and the suspect pumps shut down. This investigation is now criminal.
This then raised questions as to how far did it go, how big was it, how much kerosene had been used previously. And we knew, the teams knew that they had to act.
Darren heads up the team as they search the petrol station's office for evidence. They need to find out who is behind the scam.
It was important to seize as many records as we can, because from this it becomes the paper trail that we use to build the case up. During the search we were looking for any purchase invoices, the till rolls to prove any sales and any other relevant paperwork that we could find that would help in the case.
The petrol station is family owned, including two brothers, Darren and Dean Chapman. The team suspect this could be a sibling scam, but they need proof. Darren and the team search for any clues linking the fraud to the brothers, and soon make a crucial discovery.
We discovered a delivery note to a local haulage firm for 18,000 litres of diesel the previous day.
The petrol station has delivered 18,000 litres of potentially dodgy fuel to the haulage company.
18,000 litres of fuel is a lot of fuel, and the duty on that alone is well over £10,000.
That's over £10,000 of vital funds that our public services might have missed out on.
We knew we had to act quickly to secure any evidence we could in this case to be able to prove that that fuel had solely come from the Pulborough service station and not from other sources.
The fuel testing team pay a visit to the haulage company.
They tested the storage tanks. It's quite common for large haulage companies with large fleets to have their own pump on site with their own stock tanks, as they're called. So the road fuel testing unit dipped these tanks and found that it did indeed contain kerosene. The contents of those tanks were seized.
It's a devastating blow for the company, who've innocently forked out on what they thought was legitimate fuel and have now been left high and dry.
For the haulage company, this would have had a massive impact. Not only did they lose the 18,000 litres of fuel in their tanks and would have had to replace that out of their own pocket, but also by using the fuel it was potentially damaging their vehicles.
The evidence is clear. The petrol station is conning innocent motorists and haulage companies with its dodgy fuel. This fraud has just got much bigger. Back at the petrol station, the search steps up a gear as Darren and the team try to uncover who's in the driving seat of this shameless scam.
Although we'd seized a large quantity of fuel and had records now around who'd bought the fuel, we still didn't have enough evidence to actually arrest anyone and charge them and take them through a trial at Crown Court. So we needed to get more evidence to identify who was actually behind everything, and that's where the surveillance came in.
They suspect the Chapman brothers are the ringleaders, but they need to catch them in the act. Later, as the team hit the road, they get more than they bargained for.
Their brazen approach to how they were trading, they thought they were above the law and would never get caught.
Charities rely on public money and generous donations to provide an essential lifeline in our communities. Yet, unbelievably, as in our next case, some people abuse them, stealing desperately needed cash, leaving vulnerable people without the help they really need.
This is the story of a callous fraudster who posed as a charity worker whilst siphoning off donations to fund a cushy life of trips abroad, takeaways and fancy gadgets.
It was a gross misuse of public money. It was charities' money, best to be spent elsewhere. It makes me feel sick looking at it. Why should he be enjoying himself when that money was saved, provided by the public?
The case is passed to Detective Chief Inspector Andy Rogers of Northamptonshire Police. It's up to him to bring the criminals to book.
Well, for me, the reason I joined Northamptonshire Police was to protect the public. It may sound a bit cheesy, but that's really what I wanted to do. It makes me feel empowered to target these individuals and really go after them with everything we can at the full might of the force.
The case begins at a local charity based in the East Midlands.
The centre undertake lots of activities for the local community. Some of the roles they undertake is preschool and after-school activities for the local children, and it's also open up to the local community. You can see on the board here everything the centre do, crime prevention, around victim support.
Like so many charities up and down the country, the centre is a lifeline for people that are in desperate need.
They are a person you can go and see, to speak to. They support the local communities, opportunities to speak to like-minded people. It's been running over 40 years now.
The money to fund its essential services comes from both community donations and the public purse.
It's 40% funded, the organisation, from the local communities, local government, and that money is key for the organisation to keep on going.
But charity directors have started to notice that all is not right with its accounts. A substantial sum is missing. Suspicions fall on a staff member who's been with the charity for years, steadily rising through the ranks.
The charity placed a huge amount of confidence and trust in this individual in the charity. He became the manager after volunteering for 2 years.
The position of trust comes with complete control of the charity's finances.
He was trusted with thousands and thousands of pounds. The trust was key. That individual person had everything at his fingertips.
The charity's senior staff set up a meeting to find out what he knows.
The centre has sat down with the individual after it being reported to the senior managers that there was some discrepancies with the bank accounts. They brought the individual in and put this to him.
He can't give his colleagues the answers they need. They decide to meet the following day to go through the bank statements. But when the meeting comes around, there's no sign of him. The manager has all but vanished, and the police are called in.
It was quite clear then that something was going on.
Andy's team get to work. They trawl through the charity's accounts and soon confirm the suspicions. The manager's been helping himself.
It was identified that a number of items were being purchased by himself. Starting off with the iPad, he purchased for himself, not for the charity, not for anybody within it, but for his own personal use.
But that's just the tip of a very large iceberg.
As the investigation progressed, further items were identified. White goods items were delivered to his home address, purchases for train tickets, holiday, hotels.
The team have their prime suspect, but they need to work out if he's been acting alone and just how far the fraud goes.
It was quite clear we needed to have real clear forensic accounting around it to really do a deep delve into not only his personal accounts, but also the charity. Could it have been other people? Could other people be involved in all of this?
Andy and the team dig deeper into the charity's finances.
It's quite clear huge amounts of money was being moved for purchases what weren't for the charity themselves.
But how could he get away with such a brazen theft? Turns out, the suspect had been making some high-tech changes, modernising how the charity handles its money, all to help him get away with the fraud.
They set up a PayPal account to make processes and purchases a lot swifter and a lot easier electronically. Members of the team were all given their own bank cards, so they had access to funds as well as a small float as well.
He's not the only one with access to the charity's money, but he is the only one spending it on himself. Later, as the investigation intensifies, police discover the deception runs even deeper than first thought.
How could somebody actually take charity's money, use it as their own personal bank account?
The pressure on our public services is massive. From schools to councils to the NHS, they're all being asked to do more with less. But despite this, over £14 billion a year is lost to tax fraud because some people think the rules simply don't apply to them, including our next fraudster.
Senior Crown Prosecutor Maksud Khan can spot every trick in the book when it comes to tax evasion. He knows fraudsters who have cash businesses can be particularly tricky and works with HMRC to keep a close eye.
What HMRC do is they'll send a couple of officers out to the restaurants and to do a test purchase. They'll sit in the restaurant, takeaway, they'll have something to eat, and they'll make observations. Observations like how many customers come in and out, how much money is passed through the tills, things like that. So it gives the HMRC a flavour on how busy the restaurant is or how quiet the restaurant is. And from there, they'll adduce whether further inquiries are necessary.
One takeaway that received just such a visit is on a busy main road on the outskirts of Leeds. On the menu are tandoori and Balti dishes, but investigators want to know if the owner's cooking the books too. He's already drawn attention by failing to send in important paperwork for his tax return. And straight away, investigators spot some unsavoury goings-on.
When the HMRC officers visited premises, they noticed some practices were odd. So, for example, they had no till, all the orders were written on a piece of paper, the cash and change were kept underneath a drawer. These practices are unusual. And this is what caused the initial suspicion.
Alarm bells are already ringing. With all the time-saving technology available, why is the takeaway owner sticking to pen and paper to record his sales?
To me, it's quite obvious why he used handwritten notes. It's just simply so he can avoid any paper trail towards him showing the full extent of his business. How do you use a proper service? How do you use proper software that's available to business owners? You'd have to complete all the relevant information that is asked for tax purposes. Whereas if you handwrite it, you can control what the accountant can see, and subsequently, the HMRC.
If Maqsood's suspicions are right, the businessman's up to no good. But investigators need proof. Back at the takeaway, they've spotted something that suggests the boss might not be such a technophobe after all. And it could provide just the lead they're looking for.
What they also observed when they did a test purchase is that the customers were able to use a food app service to order their food. And that allowed the investigation team to contact the food app services and obtain every invoice, every cash transaction, every credit card transaction that was made by the customers through their portal.
With access to the data from the food app, investigators can get a proper look into the takeaway's true turnover.
It was quite obvious and it was quite apparent that this offenders were making a substantial amount of money. For example, in the space of 3 weeks, just in one portal that he was using, it generated sales of £3,200.
That's £3,200 in takings in under a month from just one app. But the takeaway has been using another app too, and also taking cash over the counter. It's clear the owner's earning much more than he's letting on. And when they follow the money trail from the apps, the heat of the investigation continues to rise.
Investigation team identified that all the money that was made from or generated from the food portals, the money was transferred to the defendant's personal account as opposed to a business account. And again, that's another trigger point because it shows that he's hiding his money or he's trying to hide his money.
And it's a substantial amount. As well as money from the apps, investigators find a trail of mystery checks that customers have used to pay for their food. And it's not just for the odd curry and the occasional kebab. The value of the undeclared cash adds up to a whopping £78,000.
So what happened next was that HMRC then checked the records, the income tax records and the VAT returns that were submitted by this defendant over the years. What they found when they analysed this information was that the information that was provided in the income tax returns and VAT returns did not match up with the sales.
And when they crunch the numbers, the total amount of unpaid taxes is astonishing.
From their analysis, HMRC concluded and calculated effectively that this defendant owed approximately £140,000.
That's £140,000 that should be paying for vital public services. But it's not just income tax and VAT the dodgy vendor's been avoiding.
So as part of the investigations, HMRC also found out that this defendant and his partner was a joint claim. They made a claim for tax credits. The initial claim was legitimate, but the subsequent claim for the following years were all false because the defendant suppressed his income.
The takeaway owner's been fiddling his personal accounts too.
So at this point, the criminal team concluded that the criminality wasn't just the low-end tax evasion, it was the high-end tax evasion, VAT evasion, and also claimed tax credit fraudulently. And the total figure of fraud they were looking at the time was about £178,000.
The crooked cook's been lining his own pockets at the expense of honest taxpayers for too long. It's time for him to face a grilling of his own.
He was interviewed under caution. A number of questions were put to him, including whether he was guilty or not, whether he actually evaded tax, whether his income tax returns were false. But the defendant answered no comment to every question he was asked.
Now, more determined than ever to see justice done, Maqsood prepares his evidence for court. Then, out of the blue, he receives an unexpected phone call.
The defendant's legal team contacted me. They were asking me whether I would consider not charging the defendant if he paid the money back. In my view, the criminality was quite severe, and it wasn't a case where I would consider dropping the case or not charging. The evidence in this case is quite overwhelming, and I was determined to get this man. And I charged him with 3 offences, 1 for evading VAT, 1 for evading income tax, and 1 for falsely claiming child tax credits.
When the case comes to court, Maqsood's confident it's last orders for the corrupt takeaway owner. Sure enough, the offender pleads guilty to all 3 counts. He's sentenced to 18 months in prison.
I was actually pleased with the custodial sentence. This was a tough case right from the beginning, and the investigation team did a cracking job getting all the information that I needed for charge. And as a team, we worked together, and as a team, we provided justice.
In East Sussex, police are closing in on 2 brothers selling dodgy diesel to unsuspecting customers. It's a scam that's letting them avoid thousands in tax and line their own pockets with profits that should be paid into the public purse. But is it nearly the end of the road for this devious duo?
Fuel duty and VAT is a large proportion of the price that we pay at the pumps. That money is used by the government to pay for essential services such as the NHS, schools and other public services.
The illicit mix of fuel is made up of legitimate fuel and kerosene, an oil normally used for heating, not running cars.
In the UK, kerosene isn't approved for the use in road fuel. By traders taking kerosene and mixing it with legitimate road fuel, they reduce the cost to them as they don't pay the full rate of duty on it.
HMRC fraud investigators suspect the owners of Pulborough petrol station, 2 brothers, Darren and Dean Chapman, are behind the scam. While the case team forensically analyse all their paperwork, investigators decide to keep a closer eye on the suspicious siblings.
Surveillance was really key to this case. We needed to make sure we'd identified who the suppliers and customers were of the Chapmans. It's not something you can purely do from the paperwork.
The surveillance team follows the Chapmans' 20,000-litre tanker in the hope it will lead them to their kerosene supplier. But can it steer them to the evidence they need?
We only use surveillance in sort of the highest priority cases. It's a labour-intensive resource, really, so we don't use it in every case, and we only use it where there's a large tax risk and a large amount of money potentially going unpaid that we need to find out, as there was in this case.
The team closely monitor the tanker, watching its every movement.
Surveillance is very much a waiting game. Day in, day out, you'll be sitting watching the tanker. Some days it may not move, some days it may go to several different places in the same day. It's key to building up that bigger picture to show the whole fraud and who all the participants in the fraud were.
The team follow the tanker, gathering more evidence as it crisscrosses the southeast of England. But a few weeks into monitoring the tanker, the investigation takes an unexpected turn.
We were expecting the tanker to go to a kerosene supplier, so to find biodiesel was a really big surprise.
It seems the petrol station owners are rattled. Knowing HMRC are onto them, they've switched their source from kerosene to biofuel.
Biofuel is produced from used cooking fats, cooking oils from restaurants and fish and chip shops, and can be used similar to kerosene to add to diesel to extend the life of it.
It might be more environmentally friendly, but mixing it with diesel to dodge tax and duty is just as illegal. And they think they're getting away with it.
This showed their brazen approach to how they were trading. They thought they were above the law and would never get caught.
But the net is closing in on the brothers' bogus fuel fraud, and the investigators aren't done yet. They turn their attention back to the brothers' original kerosene supplier. They managed to identify them through HMRC records and suspect they were in on the scam too.
kerosene supplier had a duty to inform HMRC of any kerosene sold for road fuel and charge excise duty on that fuel that they were selling.
They arrest the owner and trawl through their records. The team find invoices showing kerosene being sold to traveller sites for heating purposes. But it's all bogus.
We're looking at a map here of the traveller sites that they allege that they sold the fuels to. The kerosene supplier is right on the south coast, on the right-hand side, and you've got traveller sites all over the UK. Quite simply, it doesn't make commercial sense to do this if you're selling 2,000 litres of heating fuel to somebody from the south coast that is on the north coast in Newcastle, that it would cost more getting the fuel to them than you'd actually make in profit on the sale of the fuel.
In reality, they were providing the Chapmans with kerosene. It's now clear they're in on the fraud too.
The invoices were important as it was good evidence that the kerosene supplier was trying to hide what he was doing. He was trying to hide the fraud and distance himself from the Chapmans to not be part of the fraud, really.
Darren and the team are finally able to start bringing all their evidence together. The scale of the brothers' fraud is staggering.
The case team put together a month-by-month list of how much diesel they sold. And at the same time, we had the purchase invoices from the legitimate diesel providers. The blue lines here show the purchases, and the orange lines show the sales on a month-by-month basis. And as you can see, the blue lines are a lot shorter than the orange lines, so they were clearly buying, according to their records, they were buying a lot less diesel than they were selling each month. We identified over 10 large haulage firms who were purchasing the illicit diesel from the Chapmans. The duty evaded is well over £1 million already.
That's £1 million that should have been going into the public purse. Instead, Darren's building up a picture of just how it's being spent.
The Chapmans were taking advantage of the public and using the proceeds from these ill-gotten gains to lead a lavish lifestyle, driving Bentleys and taking frequent holidays abroad.
Darren has seen enough. Months of surveillance and analysis of the paperwork have given him and the team all they need to finally arrest the two brothers.
Darren Chapman was identified as being the main person behind this fraud. During interview, he gave a no-comment interview, but the evidence stacked up against him as being the main player in the fraud.
The Chapmans sold an estimated 4.8 million litres of illicit fuel to unsuspecting motorists and haulage firms, and in total evaded an astonishing £3.4 million of tax.
All of this could have been used elsewhere to fund and to provide services that are vital to the country surviving.
And the damage isn't just to the country's coffers. Innocent motorists have been left to pick up the repair bills of damage caused by their fake fuel.
And overall, over £70,000 worth of damage had been identified to customers' cars from using this illicit fuel.
These brazen con men have not only stolen money from the taxpayer, but also cost their own loyal customers tens of thousands of pounds. But after all they've done, they still can't admit their wrongdoing. The brothers plead not guilty and go to trial at Wood Green Crown Court. Darren Chapman is found guilty of fraudulent evasion of excise duty and VAT. Dean Chapman is found guilty of VAT fraud. Between them, they received 12.5 years in prison.
The sentencing handed down by the courts to the Chapmans is clear indication they're in agreement that this is a heinous crime and shouldn't go unpunished.
3 other associates received custodial and suspended sentences.
What they did was disgusting. By evading the duty and VAT and keeping that money to himself, he's deprived it being used in the NHS. This money should really have been used to pay for nurses, to pay for the essential services that all of us need and all of us use every day.
In Northamptonshire, Detective Chief Inspector Andy Rogers is on the trail of a local charity manager treating its funds as his own personal piggy bank. He's been pilfering public money and charitable donations meant for the local community. And the more Andy follows the money, the deeper the fraud runs.
It was key then to put in the hours to actually get this all the way home. And every time we picked up a stone, more information was coming out.
It looks like the suspect has an unhealthy appetite for fraud and is happy to leave the local community to go without.
Purchased himself pizzas, getting them delivered, the home addresses linked to him and his family a number of times, and getting cash out from the ATMs in the location where he resides.
But what might have started small has quickly escalated into something much bigger.
Of the investigation identified huge amounts of money coming out from the charity being spent by this individual. Not small amounts, but thousands of pounds were being spent. Key aspects were utilising it for himself, for his own personal gain.
He's clearly spared no expense in using the charity's accounts for whatever takes his fancy. From tumble dryers to vacuum cleaners, lawnmowers to games consoles, the fraudster's been kitting out his house using the charity's money meant to support the most vulnerable. And it doesn't stop there.
As we investigated further, purchases were made, paying themselves twice. It was never ending.
The fraudster is even using the charity's money to cover his own rent.
It just amazes me, the audacity of this individual.
Andy and his team need to bring the suspect in. But they need watertight evidence it's him splashing the cash.
Significant amount of hours required just to analyse this and actually allocate the fact that the purchases were for the individual.
As the team build their case, they discover the fraudster's only got greedier. He's graduated from takeaway pizzas and developed a taste for the finer things in life.
He went down to London, stayed at a nice executive hotel on the Thames, not just a normal room, but got an upgrade as well on the charity bank cards.
He's been pampering himself all at the charity's expense, treating public money like it's his own. And it's not only fancy trips to the capital. The team discover he's also been using charity money to fund his family holidays.
He purchased trips abroad numerous times, all places what he couldn't afford, and was utilising the money put forward from the charities. In one instance, they decided to purchase a holiday over in Amsterdam on the charity card. On the back of that as well, they paid for flights, the Eurostar to go to that location. And then to really take it to how much they were utilising this money, thinking it's their own, is they used a cashback facility in a bank to actually get their funds out whilst on holiday. So they really have started to take the charity's bank out as their own personal accounts.
It's taxpayers' money that should be spent on vital public services, not taking his friends and family on holiday.
It's just the audacity. He's purchasing tickets to Disneyland when we should be feeding the kids. It's just absolutely disgraceful.
But Andy and the team still need to prove it's definitely him that's been pinching from the charity's coffers.
How do we know that somebody else hadn't just put the individual's name down and just booked it? Because I, for example, could turn up to a hotel and just state, I am this particular person's name, turn up and get the room. And so we had to confirm that was all in place as well.
They need to link the suspect to each booking and prove it can only be him.
It's the same individual was purchasing, for example, hotels, trains, etc., because it all interlinks. A train would then link to a particular hotel in a certain location.
It's clear evidence he is the one that's been jet-setting around, and that he's been acting alone. It's taken months of hard work, but Andy and the team can prove he's stolen a staggering £30,000 from the charity's bank accounts.
The centre is supported by public funds. A key part of the charity is funding from the public purse. The fact that this individual has stolen money from the charity It's significant. Everybody has put money towards that in the community. It's there to be used appropriately.
The evidence against the fraudster is overwhelming. Officers visit him at his home address, and he volunteers to come in for questioning. In interview, he holds his hands up to some of the missing money, but even now won't admit to it all. With its finances in tatters, the future of the 40-year-old charity now hangs in the balance.
His reckless abuse of his position of trust resulted in the charity nearly folding, and if it wasn't for the support and the generosity of a number of the charity, providing up to over £20,000, the charity and the service it provides to the community, it would have seized and would have closed down.
The charity is forced to use yet more public money, along with donations from other charities to help bail it out. But the damage caused by the fraudster's actions isn't just financial.
The whole offence, it just wasn't impacting the charity themselves, it was impacting individuals who work for the charity. Due to the fraudulent activity by this individual, it resulted in people resigning. They may have felt it was their own fault that they didn't look at the accounts and weren't really challenging it. But he was the manager. It was somebody you trust. You trust your manager. You have a lot of confidence in that.
By the time the case goes to court, finally the fraudster comes clean. He pleads guilty to fraud by abuse of position of trust and is jailed for 2 years and 3 months.
I think it shows exactly what we'd captured during our investigation from a police perspective. The overwhelming evidence pleaded guilty to just under £30,000 worth of fraud.
It's a great result, not just for Andy and the team, but also the local community.
It is key and imperative that these individuals are brought to justice. These people are abusing their positions of trust. And at the end of the day, we need to protect the service the communities and the charities are providing day in and day out for those most vulnerable. If you do commit crime, especially fraud offences, we will be coming after you.
Join us again when the Fraud Squad continue their fight.
It makes me feel empowered to target these individuals and really go after them.
Bringing wrongdoers to justice and defending the public purse.
We work together to prosecute these kind of offences, and we won't stop.
It's those people that we really want to bring to justice, and nobody is beyond our reach.
It all starts with the too good to be true story of handing out cash to strangers. Press red to watch Scamland, Money, Mayhem and Maseratis on BBC iPlayer. And next, the tradesman whose stock in trade is lies.